Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year, everyone.
It's 2023.
It is.
How were the holidays?
They were good. I'm always happy to go into the holidays. I'm always happy when they end. So we're back at it.
You're happy when they end?
I am.
It is kind of an exhausting process.
Well, it is. You know, it's always great to see a lot of people. And,
Yeah.
the holiday calendar, I think, for most people is always very busy. I mean, it starts probably the end of November, and we had we had to flex some holiday venturing muscles that hadn't been flexed for a couple of years.
That's true.
It was pretty exhausting. So, I mean, by the time we finished all our holiday hosting and parties and so forth, it was probably around December 28th. And I was fine not to be doing anything after that. So it was pretty uneventful after that.
Good for you.
Yeah,
How are your holidays, Amy?
They were good. We all had sickness passed around our house for a good 4 weeks. So we were healthy for the holidays.
That's good.
But they're back in school, so we're probably going to be sick in the next few weeks. So nice seeing you in person now, but we'll see how the next few weeks go.
So did you hear
How
what
about
they
you?
named the new COVID virus, by the way?
Yeah, XBB or
XBB.
Well, you know how they come up with these names, right? Like Omicron,
Yeah.
I think was one of them. I think
No, I don't know how
Delta was another one.
I don't know how
You
they
know what
come-
they named this one?
What?
Kraken.
the
They
Kraken?
called it the Kraken.
The Kraken.
Yeah.
Oh,
The
wow.
Kraken?
The Kraken. You know what the Kraken is?
Yeah, the monster in the sea.
Yeah, the,
right?
the crazy monster in the
Yeah,
sea
yeah.
that's like really
Come on,
scary.
Amy, you didn't watch
like the scariest monster in
Pirates
the
of
sea.
Caribbean? it was Captain
It's
Jack's.
the scariest monster. That's what they named this new virus. Don't try not to be melodramatic, World Health Organization. No,
Yeah.
heaven forbid. Anyway, I digress. How was your holidays?
Mine was
Jamal?
mine were great.
You encounter the Kraken?
I did not encounter the Kraken. No,
Good,
no,
good.
but mine were great. Christmas Day we had a bachelor's party for one of my buddies, so we did that, and then
nice.
New Year's was pretty fun too.
Good.
Yeah,
Can you tell us about New Year's, Jalal?
maybe on another podcast.
Yeah, different one.
Yeah.
Well, we thought what we would do today, coming into a new year, we always have resolutions, right? That's always the thing. But oftentimes I think it's important to think back and reflect on the year and the learnings coming through it.
Yep.
Particularly the market environment that we've gone through, but also look at it from a business perspective, what we're doing, how we're changing going forward and things like that, as well as personally what we've got going on. So, Sean, what are some of your reflections from last
Kick it
year?
off. Talk to me about your past year, Sean.
I think what I saw was, and you're reminded of it periodically, once every 10 years or 12 years or so. And I mean, it actually in the last 3 or 4 years, we've had it happen a couple times with COVID and then this year, but investing can be difficult.
Yeah.
As much as you do have more periods of success investing, as long as you're doing it carefully and you're well researched and so forth, there are going to be times that despite your best efforts, things are just going to work against you. And it's hard to market time around it and so forth. But 2022 was a year that I'm glad's in the rearview mirror. But, what was unique about 2022 was, when you properly diversify a portfolio, be it real estate, fixed income, like bonds and high quality companies and so forth, really, most asset classes, if not all, I can't say all because, obviously energy was up a little bit last year and some commodities were up in the past year. But literally, if you looked at a heat map of asset classes globally, there was a lot of red on it, like 97% red.
Yeah.
And so it just taught me that investing is not a straight upward line. And despite your best efforts, you can have down years. And so you have to kind of, really reinforce the logic behind what you're doing and just really check to make sure that the logic you're applying is still taking hold and it's still working in a way that makes sense longer term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And I think it reinforced like some of the values we've always had, but it reinforced it. Like one of the core values to the team is know what you own and why you own it. Right. So when you go through a difficult time, when you're looking at your statements, if you can recognize the business, you understand the business, you see future in the business, kind of reinforces your thought process. But it's really important, especially during difficult times.
Well, it's around the concept of, the difference between a temporary down period in your portfolio versus a permanent loss. And like the one thing I can say is, look, if you look globally around the world, you had probably a 1 in 5 or at best 1 in 4 chance of picking a company that was up this year around the world.
Yeah.
You look at the S&P 500, which is, according to Warren Buffett at any rate, like a global barometer of the the health of the global economy, and although it's a U.S. index, it's somewhat representative of the global economy. 74% of the companies on the S&P 500 were off this year,
Mm-hmm.
and those that were up were vastly clustered in the energy sector and so forth. Well, if you are a long-term investor in energy, I mean,
Right.
you weren't really loving being in that sector relative to some other areas. But I think if you look at in hindsight, it was a very difficult year, but the underpinning of the investment still actually held. Like
Mm-hmm.
for instance, if you own bonds, government bonds or high quality corporate bonds and so forth,
Mm-hmm.
there were limited defaults.
Yeah.
Like 99% of companies with that had loan obligations were paying their interest payments on time.
Yeah.
And so forth. There was very limited dividend cuts on the S&P 500.
Mm-hmm.
And most companies that had dividend growth programs in place kept with it.
Right. That's true.
Share repurchase activity, at the end of 2022 was, if not at an all-time high in the S&P 500, it was near to it.
Yeah.
And the vast majority of companies on the S&P 500 grew their earnings last year. So
Mm-hmm.
So when you look, when you lift the hood of the engine, you see that the engine's still there and it's still working. It's just that we went through a bumpy road that basically progressed a little bit slower than it wanted. That didn't make it fun, by the way. I'm not.
No, I know. Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that I'm really happy about last year was our communication strategy. And Joel, thank you for all the work you do.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
On
That was
our
great.
podcast. But
sure.
I think it reinforced too. A lot of our clients, that's when they need to hear from us most, is when we're going through these difficult periods. And the way we're able to do a podcast, the way we were able to do different webinars and live streams, how we did, the email communication, because everybody's their lives are all very different. And that's what's kind of neat about our business is we work with many, many different people. Mm-hmm. So, but communicating in so many different forms and reaching out to them, I was really proud of as a reflection of last year. And I'm excited going forward this year. It's made our job, I think, enjoyable too, to have these different dialogues and discussions on many different topics.
So, and I think, Jill, one of the things you pointed out, late last year is our clients navigated and missed the blow-ups, like the big blow-ups, like for instance, the FTX issue, Bitcoin and so on and so forth. These are things where you put your money in, whether you own FTX stock or you actually had your money held at FTX, goodbye. It's gone. And that could be even a separate podcast as to why that's all gone. But the bottom line, and I may or may not be writing an article on this that's going to be published at some point in the future. But versus if you own a company like Canadian National Railway, which actually was one of the, I think, as I recall, one of the companies around the world that was actually flat to up this year. But maybe pick like Texas Instruments or Microsoft or Alphabet, or and in Canada, I think most if not all the big six Canadian banks were down on the year. They're not. It's not a permanent loss. They're still making money. There's still economic rent being delivered by these companies. They're going to be fine longer term. But
the question is, are you just going to be able to bear the patience and bear the volatility and the bumps? That's all it is. That's the question. It's not a question of did you lose your money? Any losses you're at, if you're at any losses, whether material losses are just like numbers on the screen. The question is not, is that going to be permanent or not? I highly doubt it. Like, for example, Sean, you mentioned, Microsoft and Texas Instruments. Those companies are not going away anytime soon. That's for sure. Even the big six banks.
Yeah.
Right? Well, it's just a question of, can you bear the rough road that's ahead? Most likely, there's still going to be some hardships, and at least in the first half.
And
of this year,
that's what years like this teach you, is that you have to. It steels you towards the fact that, look, you're not going to have a positive year every year when you're investing. Like, look at some folks that bought homes, unfortunately, in the short run during COVID at the height of the market. Well, in the long run, they're going to be fine.
And that's actually, that's a good one to talk about on the housing side, because a lot of people, when we meet with them and we're having discussions about goals and things like that, and they're talking about housing, we say the same thing. If you plan to own that house for a long period of time, you might be buying at the top of the market. Maybe. We don't know. But if you own it long enough, it won't matter. Right? It's the people that are trying to flip it or maybe do these other, well, then you've taken on more risk and you need to be prepared for that risk, right? And so that's kind of what we're seeing.
And when you own a personal use property, your principal residence, you get a personal utility out of that. So there's a benefit there. And then when you're renting it out, I mean, you may have bought your property, like maybe a relative high or what have you, but you're also getting record high rents in Ontario as well. So there's an offset there, which again, if you own dividend paying companies, you're also getting record high dividends. Because I don't think companies are paying out more in dividends than they're paying out more in dividends than they ever have in the history of their existence.
Yeah, a lot of them have. And for those who haven't listened to it yet, we actually have an episode on dividends called All About the Income. So definitely check it out.
Yeah.
I think one of the other reflections I had too is just reflecting all the stuff we go through with clients. You know, think about all the clients that retired last year. Given the difficult market environment, we have a whole bunch of people that actually decided that they were going to put the pin in, and that was retirement date. Yeah. We had many new clients that bought their first homes, marriages, new kids and grandkids. It's really cool that
congrats to them.
Isn't that neat though? But we get to, from our perspective, we get to kind of go through these journeys with them at all different stages and watch them hit these milestones or plan for the milestones. Yeah. I actually really appreciate that part of it all. Yeah. And it's, you know, when you meet with your younger clients, you kind of know what the path or very similar paths they might follow to some of our existing clients that are further down that journey. Yeah. I really enjoyed that part. And I thought, you know, I love that. And that's getting to be part of their story and all the different things that they do day to day. And we learn a lot from them too, right? Think about all the business owners that are going through all the different challenges right now. Yep. We hear that. We're having those conversations. So, and again, it helps shape our thinking when we're looking at the overall portfolio for their specific goals, but also when we're looking at companies, understanding, you know, kind of what all these other different businesses are doing. Yeah,
and there is a collective resiliency amongst people that you really witness firsthand when you're dealing with people on a day-to-day basis.
Collective resiliency?
Yeah, you know, and what I mean by that is the challenges that any individual is facing. Well, they're not facing it in isolation or in a vacuum. Everyone else is facing the same challenges, and it forces you to make perspective. You have to make different kind of decisions, sometimes difficult decisions, but yet they're made and they come out the other end. And they're, you know, it's not easy, but you know, they're fine, and you know, better times ahead, right?
Yeah, I agree.
So what about personal goals? Any hazard to share? Any resolutions?
New Year resolutions. My New Year resolution is to come into the office more.
Jalal.
I don't come in enough.
You're here every single day.
Wow, Jalal. You know,
I need to extend my hours.
Okay, but you know, to have a goal, which to call it a goal, you have to actually do something that changes your behavior.
Yeah. True.
I'll wake up earlier.
Like I can't say I'm going to finish the latest episode or the latest season of Yellowstone and call that a goal. Yeah, because I'm not going. It doesn't change my behavior.
Yeah. You were already planning on doing that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, what are your personal goals, Sean? Tell me.
Mine are somewhat hardwired. I mean,
I know your karate stuff. I remember all that stuff. You're working towards another degree,
right? I mean, that's a pretty dedicated thing, and there's a lot of boxes I have to tick to do that. And you know, I'm doing this whole process, which requires basically, you know, I have to do a number of sessions, like probably about 4 to 5 hours of martial arts classes a week. Yeah. Plus, you know, at 7 a.m. on Saturdays, I have to do another 2-hour separate session a week. And that's every week until the middle of May. And then what happens is all this training and stuff culminates in what amounts to a 14-hour test strewn over 2 days. So for basically starting on a Friday, I can't remember what date, somewhere in May, but like kind of mid-May, but you know, you start at like 4:00 on a Friday and you go to somewhere like 11 or 12 midnight that night, then you're back on the dojo floor at 11 a.m. and you probably go to another like till 5 o'clock in the afternoon or in the evening, right? So there's a couple elements there. Like when I first got my black belt, call it like 6 or 7 years ago, I was a little bit younger. You know, I could probably the body was a little more resilient. So I got to do like, not only do I have to do the effort around the training aspect and the actual martial arts, but I got to do a whole bunch of work around making sure that I'm strong enough and the peripherals are healthy enough that I don't get injured while doing it. Because if I get injured while doing it, then it's out. And if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And you got to stay healthy.
Got to stay healthy. Got to go. You know, I got to train. You know, go to the gym. You know, pretty regularly.
That's something I got to start doing again.
Yeah.
So, but that's somewhat hardwired. I think the other thing too is, you know, 2022 reminded you that in spite of your best efforts, things can kind of move against you, and you can be wrong for the right reasons in the short run, and don't to the extent you can, because it's, you know, privately. I mean, we're very driven individuals.
Yep.
And, you tend to beat yourself up on woulda, coulda, shoulda. Yeah. So you always have to ground back to, listen, you made the decision under the best information you had.
Yeah.
And it just in the environment, not to pat ourselves on the back or anything or what, but it was just one of those environments that you just realize that in spite of your best efforts, it was just a difficult
yeah,
part.
yeah. And it's true. Sometimes under the best available circumstances, that was the best decision you could have made.
And it's humbling. It's humbling. And you learn more.
Sure.
You learn more in times of challenge for sure than you do when you're walking through the tall grass and the sun shining.
100%.
Well, and it reinforces why we do so much financial planning, right? Because we build in these buffers and these parameters. We can't be exact every single year. So if you build in the parameters, you're going to be okay.
100%. And Amy, what are some of your New Year resolutions?
I have a lot of resolutions. No, I think drinking more water. So
I thought you were just going to say drinking more.
Just drinking more in general. No, drinking more water. I find throughout the day I get really, really busy. You're great at this. You carry around a water bottle very consistently. I'm.
You think it's water?
Yeah. I guess so. But I need to drink more water. I need to stay more hydrated. And so I got to be more mindful of that because sometimes I can go a whole day and I'm like, oh, I haven't had a glass of water. Yeah. So that's a big one for me. Using my calendar a little more structured wise from both business and personal. I've got this master calendar now so that I am tracking everything because I've got little kids doing stuff now. I'm like, oh my gosh, how do I know where everybody is and who's covering who? So my calendar is becoming more and more important. And then just getting out. Chris and I, my husband, we started on Mondays at noon. We just said, put it in the calendar.
Yep.
We're going to go for a walk. Because we used to go for these long walks all the time. And that's where we would hash out planning and different things we're trying to, brainstorm on or business ideas and things like that. But with young kids, it's usually by 8:00, we look at each other and we're like, hello, for the first time today. Yeah. We're just so busy. So carving that time out, we did our first walk the other day and I was like,
congrats.
Yeah, we got so much accomplished. I'm like, in an hour, I'm like, oh my gosh, hi, we get to talk for 2 seconds. Yeah. So those are going to be some of the key things for me this year.
It's like your own couple retreat, in companies do retreats.
1 hour walk. We're like, yes.
It's a mini retreat. Why not? That clearing of the mind actually would be awesome.
Yeah, it's just being more mindful on things, right? Because you can get so busy in the day to day. So
yeah. 100%.
What about you, Jalal?
What are my New Year resolutions? Honestly, I don't have really New Year. I do have just the one the really basic one. I do want to hopefully get back into the gym this year, but that's pretty much. I'm actually pretty, I'd say, satisfied with my personal life. Kind of. I don't know if it's boring, but it probably is.
Well, one of
maybe
the things,
maybe a little read more.
So actually on that reading more, we've decided that we're going to start doing some book reviews. So stay tuned. We're going to have some, and I think that's a good one because I've always had these things on my list too. So it'll be fun just to kind of go through some of our oldies and goodies, reviewing them again, and then some of the new ones that are out there, reviewing them.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
One final question I wanted to ask you guys both. Now you guys have been in the I'd say the banking industry, the financial industry for a long time, but just really quickly, tell me how's your first year here at National Bank? I'd say from your moving from your previous firm.
I would say in all honesty, it's made me fall back in love again with what we do because we are able to communicate in a much more, open way.
Diversified way.
We've been able to put in a lot of processes from a technology standpoint to do a lot of the heavy lifting that was very manual before. I think, I'm excited. I'm very excited.
That's good.
We've got such a great team. Simone is fantastic. Yeah.
She's great.
She had a huge learning curve with all the stuff we had to tackle, but she tackled it with a smile and is so positive, and we have such a great team. I'm pumped for the year ahead. Yeah, I'm super
and that
pumped.
Energy will no doubt radiate onto the clients and stuff like that for sure.
Yeah, and I think National Bank, like any organization, it's not perfect, and they're learning, but they want to learn. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they recognize as an organization that there's gaps in terms of where they are and where they want to be, and they definitely have they have a very strong vision and roadmap in terms of getting to where they want to be down the road, which I'll be blunt. I think if you journey up 15 to 10 years or 10 to 15 years, they want to be of the similar size to the BMOs and the TDs of the world. And they've got the roadmap to do that. I think, what I really love about National Bank is the more I learn about it, I really think that they're an organization that's probably one of the more underappreciated businesses, period, in Canada
Yeah.
in terms of how good they are in certain areas of working with clients.
Yeah.
Compared to what I've seen in the past, whether it be different organizations or what
Right.
have you.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty proud to work here. I'm very proud to work here. To
That's
be honest.
good. Now I know last year, I know you guys moved in just near the end of 2021, and I started with you guys in January of 2022. So I don't have much
I feel
to
like
say,
you've
but
been with us for like ever. Like you just integrated so well.
Is that a good-
the,
oh,
yeah,
okay. So
no,
it
it's
is a good
such a
thing.
good thing. I feel like we've always known each other or something.
Yeah. Well, I love working with you guys as well. I think I've made it pretty clear in the past where I'm happy I chose your guys' team. But I just one thing I wanted to say is thanks to the clients who actually put up with the onboarding process. It was definitely not easy on them.
Yeah.
Definitely not easy on us. So I just wanted to, on behalf of the team, I really want to say thank you, everyone. Thanks to all our clients who bared
Absolutely.
the pressure
100%.
with
Yeah,
us.
100%.
it was a learning curve for them too, right?
Absolutely.
New online systems and everything else, and
Yeah,
we've
for
had some
sure.
great feedback,
Yeah.
and we're excited to keep moving forward.
Absolutely.
So 2023,
Here we come.
the outlook is, I think, a little more positive now than what we endured in 2022. And stay tuned for our next podcast because we're going to go through kind of what various research houses are saying across North America in
market
terms of what to
outlook.
expect.
Excited to talk about it.
Till next time.
Cheers, everybody.